Hello, it's Kira Ryder, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the formulas you're going to see in Chapter 11, working with combinations, permutations, and counting. And I'm going to show you how to do some of this on both a basic TI-30 calculator and what I have is a TI-84 plus CE, but the features are almost the same on a TI-84 and the TI-83, any model of those two calculators. So I will show you how to do some of these on your calculators that will be way easier, okay? First off, though, I do want you to understand just a couple basics, and the first is that of a factorial. So factorial is the exclamation point, so 5 factorial, that's how you would read this. What this means is it's 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 5 and everything below that. To figure this out, you multiply together. 5 times 4 is 20, 20 times 3 is 60, 60 times 2 is 120, times 1 is 120. Okay? What you will find is as you're doing some of the work here, it's almost easier to do this, maybe not so much in your head, but to do little pieces of it in your calculator. I had someone ask me a question the other day, and it involved 3 factorial. And 3 factorial you can plug into your calculator, but what I found is 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1, which is just 6. And a lot of times it's easier to just use the 6 than the 3 factorial. The other piece you'll find, and it's one of my favorite questions, it shows up on every quiz, test, everything I've ever written, is something like 500 factorial divided by 498 factorial. And what you'll see is that your calculators, I don't care how advanced, usually cannot compute this. It gives them like a buffer overload. But you don't need a calculator for this. Again, you have to understand what factorial means. 500 factorial means 500 times 499 times 498 times 497, and we're going to continue that on. Okay? 498 factorial means 498 times 497 times everything down to, we're going to go all the way down to 1. Okay? And what happens here is that the shortcut is, as long as you understand what we're doing with factorials, is this 498 cancels out because 498 divided by 498 is 1. Same with the 497, same with everything else all the way down to those 1s. This whole chunk becomes just a 1, and your math on this becomes 500 times 499. I would still use a calculator for that, but it's a much easier computation, and your calculator can handle that. And I had to use my calculator. It's 249,500. Okay, so there is a question like that in your homework. This is how I expect you to be able to do this. Okay, so what you will see in section 11.2 and 11.3 are these lovely formulas. And you can use these formulas. You can plug in these values. You can use your calculator and the factorial button to figure this out. The way you would read this is a permutation of n objects where you're choosing r of those n. Combination, this is n objects, you're choosing r. So combination n choose r, permutation n choose r. The big thing you need to know is as you're reading the word problems is it a permutation or is it a combination? And as long as you know that, again, in 1 second here, I'm going to show you how to do this on your calculators. And I'm going to encourage you, unless you're really gung-ho and want to know how to do this all by hand, let's forget about these formulas and let's use the calculator instead. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to start with this basic guy. because he's your cheap option and one I told you that would work just fine for the purpose of this class. And so what you need to figure out first in any of these problems is you need to figure out if what you have is a permutation or a combination. So you need to know if it's going to be a P or a C. You need to know how many objects you have and how many you're picking. Okay, so you need to get down to this. So I often tell students, this is the work you're showing me. Okay, once you know that, on this basic calculator, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm sorry for that weird pink pixelation. The key on this guy is you have to type in the 10 first before you type in anything else. Don't hit enter, just hit the 10. And then I'm going to go into this probability menu, PRB. Okay. When I push that, it brings up several options. And you see the first one there that's underlined is NPR. If I arrow to the right, I have NCR. And the very last one, if I go over one more to the right, is my factorial symbol. So if you wanted to figure out a factorial, you could use that symbol. For this, for the 10, the permutation of 10, choose 3, I'm going to hit this guy. So now I've got the 10 in there, my NPR, and now I have to type in the value of R, which is 3, and hit enter, and there's my answer. Again, if you wanted to use the formula, you could do that, but you just need to be very careful as you do it, in that you need to use a bunch of parentheses. But you would go in, so we would do 10 factorial to start, so I'd go into probability, arrow over to that factorial, that gives me 10 factorial, divided by, you're going to do 10 minus 3 factorial, which is 7 factorial, and close that parenthesis. And I get the same answer. But like I said, you have to be careful with your parentheses and such. So you can do this either way. You can do it by hand. But this is how to do it on this basic calculator. If you're working with the TI, and this will be easier to see because it's got an illuminated display. And on this one, let's just pick something else. On this one, let's do like a combination of 7 objects where I'm picking 2. For this one, this one's a little bit smarter. Okay, if you're working with an 83, and I don't have one with me right now, I think you do have to type in that 7 first, but I think you'll be able to figure out the learning curve on your calculator easy enough. I'm going to type the 7 first just because I think that's what I need to do. On all the calculators, you're going to go into Math. I'm going to click on this Math button right here. And in Math, then you've got some menus. And what you need to do is arrow over to probability. So on both calculators, it's probability. It's just how you get there is different. And if you notice here, you've got the same options. You've got some more, but you've got NPR, NCR, and your factorial button. I'm going to do, for this case, a combination, arrow down, and hit enter. Now it automatically took that 7 and typed it in that little tiny box there. And for the C, it put the C in, and now I just, typed the R, which I chose to be 2, and hit enter. Okay. Had I not typed the 7 in first on this calculator, and just for kicks, I'm going to do the permutation, it prompts me to put in those 2 values, and it looks like we do, where it's like a little subscript, it's a little lowercase. But like I said, on the other calculators, it'll look more like the display on this one, but it will do that computation for you. So I think that'll be a huge time saver for you. If you don't have either of these calculators, use your friend Google and YouTube and just type in, how do I do a permutation in, whatever model you have, a Casio, blah, 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 okay? Obviously, if your calculator is basic enough, it will not do it. I have an iPhone, and I looked at my my calculator feature in my iPhone, and it does not have the permutations or combinations. So you might have to do something a little bit different, but I guarantee it's easier than using these formulas. There's nothing wrong with these formulas. But if you want to make your life a little simpler, use the technology you have at your fingertips. If you have questions or concerns or want help, schedule a 15-minute meeting with me. We don't have to take all 15 minutes, but I'm happy to work through technology or any questions you might have. Have a good day.